Good morning, Taste Buds. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein, and I'm going back in time to bring back some yesterday Florida recipes with some today twists here on So Fleur Taste. How fun is that? Good morning, all. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein in the Goya Kitchen at Junior Achievement World in Coconut Creek. Our state has a rich history of Florida cooking. It, as most all local cuisines, was based on what nature offered. So today I thought it would be fun to go back and get some of those old school Florida recipes and bring them up to date. So let's get cooking. The first thing we're gonna make is fried green tomatoes. There were a lot of fried green tomatoes cooking over 100 years ago. And so I have decided to bring that back into a style of caprese, as we all love it. So you're gonna take your tomatoes, slice them about 1/4 to a little less than a 1/2 inch thick, just in simple rounds, like so. And then I already have a couple sitting in flour as we speak. For the next dip, we are gonna make a little egg and milk mixture. So you just wanna break up 2 whole eggs into some milk. And if you have buttermilk around, you can absolutely use that, or just regular old milk. It's really up to you, it doesn't really matter. Let's add that to our second tray. So from the flour mixture, you'll go straight into the egg milk mixture and flip that around a couple times. And I have some good old peanut oil heating up. I love peanut oil for frying. If those of you that cannot eat peanut oil want to make this, you can make it with canola, safflower, grapeseed oil, whatever it is that you might like. Now in this last tray, I have a bit of cornmeal as well as breadcrumb. You can just go ahead and mix that up together, and that will be our breading for today's tomatoes. So let's go from milk, egg to breading. You really want to coat them well before moving on. Let's get our last one in here. Fried green tomatoes are delicious. They're more tart than a regular tomato. They have a bit more acid because they have not ripened, obviously, and they have not allowed their natural sugars to come out. But fried is irresistible. Let's go ahead and move this bowl over so you can really see them cooking. Now, instead of doing your typical caprese, other than the fried green tomatoes, which are not very typical at all, I've decided to go with burrata instead of mozzarella. We make delicious burrata here in South Florida. So we went ahead and got some fresh burrata just made to add to our fried green tomato plate. So we're gonna fry these until they're beautifully golden. You want them really nice and crisp, a little bit of caramelization. I'm gonna let them go just a hair longer than usual because I really want them beautifully golden and really crispy. And I wanna start cooking a little bit of the center of the fried green tomato just to soften it a little bit. Let's go ahead and start getting our ingredients together to make our gorgeous caprese dish. In this bowl, I've combined a little bit of good balsamic vinegar with some extra virgin olive oil and salt. Here is our beautiful Florida-made burrata cheese. And then lastly, we'll take these Florida green tomatoes out of the oil, plop them onto some paper towels to make sure that you blot most of the oil off. Now, the second they come out of that oil, you really want to start seasoning them. So I've got some Maldon salt, the bigger crunchy sea salt, a little bit of black pepper. Let's get our last one out of here. By the way, do you ever reuse your oil? You should. What I do is I take a paper towel over a strainer and I strain the oil, and then I let it come to room temperature, and I kind of just leave it in a closed container on my cupboard until I use it again. Always smell it to make sure that it smells good. If it doesn't smell good, you want to discard it. But if it's good, you can keep on frying with it. Unless, of course, you cook fish, and then not so much. All right. Delicious. Let's season that last one. Okay, let's build a pretty plate. So with burrata, you can cut it, but it's really kind of mushy. So really it's best to just spoon it. So I'm gonna break some pieces off. Let's start out with a tomato, a little burrata, another tomato, another piece of burrata, and then my last tomato. Spoon a bit of this vinaigrette all the way around. And you have some basil straight from my garden. Slide a couple pieces in there. And we have our first of our Florida dishes straight to your table. Come right back for some more old Florida fare.
Come back to the Goya Kitchen at J.A. World. Michelle and the food. This is SoFlo Taste.
Coming up right after SoFlo Taste, it's SoFlo Home Project with me, Elena Capra, so stay tuned.
Thank you, Elena. As she said, she's up next here on Local 10. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste, and welcome back inside Junior Achievement of South Florida's J.A. World in Coconut Creek, a place dedicated to our children's education. Is your student looking for a summer internship, or does your company need interns? Well, get together with Junior Achievement of South Florida. For information about paid internships, go to jasouthflorida.org or call 954-979-7100. Now back to wonderful recipes from our Florida's past. Okay, we are gonna make one of my favorite things, smoked fish dip. Talk about old Florida. The first thing I wanna do is caramelize some saltine crackers. So we are gonna take some melted butter and we are just gonna brush them along some saltines. Now, if you happen to have some oil left from frying those fried green tomatoes, you can absolutely fry your saltine crackers instead, which is the way I do it at my restaurants. However, if you don't fry much at home, and I don't fry much at home either, just once in a while as a special thing, you can just brush them with some melted butter and place them in your oven until they get nice and toasty. Okay, so take smoked fish. If it's not boned, you need to bone it and just pull it and kind of pick it apart, okay? I don't like to chop it up because I don't want it to be too fine. I love having big bites of that smoked fish when I'm eating it. We got our smoked fish today from Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market. They have so many amazing ingredients, and I love using them from everything from eggs to fish and seafood to meats, and obviously in their name, chicken. You can go pick up anything and talk to them at 4191 North State Road 7 in Hollywood. They are just wonderful. By the way, they are closed on 4th of July. Make sure you take a note of that. Buy your stuff for the holiday weekend beforehand. You can go to DelawareChicken.com or call them at 954-986831. But trust me, you're going to want to go in there and get inspired. Make sure you tell them Michelle sent you. All right, so smoked fish, we're gonna juice a little bit of fresh lemon. I would say a half a lemon is perfectly fine. Then I've got some grated yellow onion, which by the way, we grated, we didn't chop today, so that it's really kind of juicy and creamy. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, these can go for another minute. I have some sour cream. If you have creme fraiche at home instead, you can use that if you're fancy, or you can just use plain old sour cream. a little bit of mayo. Okay, not so little. A little bit of salt. And finally, your favorite hot sauce. Now, because we're talking about old Florida, what did they have back then that they used a ton of to make chili sauce and to pickle? Datil peppers. So I always have some datil peppers in my house that I pickle, or that you can buy pickled, or make datil pepper hot sauce with. So I have mine here. Whew. And they are delicious, but be careful. Oh my goodness gracious. They're good, but they're a little spicy. All right, a little bit of that. I love that vinegary taste in there too. And before I mix that together, I think I need to check on my saltine crackers. Ah, they smell so good and buttery. Take a look. So they're a little bit caramelized, and they are so much better than just opening up a package. Trust me. So yummy. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry, just gonna put all my stuff down here. So like I said, let's mix this up together. By the way, a couple ways that I love serving. See, there's a bone. A couple ways I love serving smoked fish dip. One is to serve it with some crudité. So here I've got some baby carrots, some Kirby cucumbers, cut in quarters lengthwise. I always keep the skin on for texture. Some radishes, some endive, cut in quarters, or of course, you can do the saltines. It's up to you. So I like to mix this by hand. Obviously, you can use a mixer if you want to, but I would not put this into a food processor because you don't want to chop up the fish and make it all fine. It would almost turn into like a mousse or a pate, and that's not what we want. So let's go ahead and pour this into a nice bowl for serving, because you know it's all about presentation. And you can keep this cold, wrapped in your fridge for a couple weeks, I would imagine, because smoked fish dip, I've never seen it go bad in my entire life. I would serve it with a little hot sauce on the side. Of course, we have our crudité, but for this, my favorite is to take these toasty caramelized saltine crackers, which, by the way, when your family or guests try this fish dip with a toasted saltine cracker, you're never going to go back to plain saltines again, unless, of course, you're not feeling well and you just need to open up a package to eat with a can of soup. And there we have it, our beautiful old Florida fish dip with buttered saltines. Be back in a moment. SoFlo Taste will return right after this. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. All of my recipes are available on the SoFlo Show's webpage. Just scan this quick response code and you'll zip on over to the fabulous SoFlo Show's page. You'll also see this QRC on the ingredient list throughout the show. Now back to my SoFlo Taste about recipes from Florida's past. You know, I also want to give a shout out to one of my chefs, Joel Curbello, because he told me to use this old book that he had given me about Florida, and he told me he thought we should do a show about old Florida recipes. So thank you, Joel. We love you, and thank you for the idea. Now, this last recipe is actually from the 1920s. A wonderful woman that I've read about, she was a socialite. Her name was Caro Hare, and she made this recipe. It's called a Florida orange meringue pie, and it looked so interesting, as did her life. And I read about her recently in a magazine, and this recipe was given out, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but you know, it's really lovely and it's really interesting. So let's jump right into it. It's not too sweet either, and I love how much rind there is of orange. So we're going to combine orange juice, fresh squeezed, of course, orange pieces, so the whole inside of the orange without the peel, all cut up, orange zest, We used a microplane for that, by the way. Some egg yolks. A good amount of sugar, don't be scared. And cornstarch. So let's start there before we heat anything up. We're going to mix it all together before the heat goes on. Now when it's mixed, I'm going to go ahead and turn on about a medium heat for this. And I would discard the whisk and start using a rubber spatula instead. Okay. For the pie dough, no recipe was given, so we just baked a simple pie dough recipe, which you'll find on the show's page. You can also use instead graham cracker, which is perfectly delicious as well. But we thought maybe a pie shell would be even more perfect for this recipe. Also, as you can tell by the description of the pie, she topped it with meringue instead of whipped cream. My key lime pies always get whip, but because this is a good old traditional recipe, I thought we had to make a little bit of meringue. So this is an Italian style of meringue. It's really easy to make. It's just some whipped up egg whites, a little bit of sugar, cream of tartar, and there you have it. So we will top our pie with that in just a moment. So as this heats, you have to make sure you keep mixing it, because we are making a custard. And you don't want to heat it up too high because the custard will cook much too quickly. Once the custard is really nice and thick, shut off the heat and add lemon or lime juice. I prefer lime personally. She says lemon. It's up to you. To cut a bit of that sweetness, as well as a couple of tablespoons of butter, unsalted butter, so that you get a nice glaze. Once that comes together, this is what your filling will look like. It's lovely. It's like a custard. However, what I love about it is that it has all these little pieces of the orange rind, as well as orange pieces of the flesh itself is in there too. So it's really interesting. She also says you can either eat it hot, so the filling can be warm and you can top it with warm meringue, which is just made meringue, or you can top it with cold filling, which I'm gonna do, and cold meringue. I like my pies cold, although I kind of like the idea of either one. I love options. So let's go ahead and fill this pie. I made this filling yesterday. And her recipe is for a nice smaller pie. You know, I don't think you could find those big 9.5 to 10 inch deep pie dishes, pie pans before. They were always these smaller ones, which is kind of interesting. When we went to make it, I realized that the filling was a nice small amount for those old pie plates they used to have. So this is for a really nice small pie. All right, so next, I'm gonna clean up and take our meringue and pipe some meringue over the top. You can really just smooth it over with meringue, but I like to have a little fun with it. Meringue always reminds me of marshmallow fluff. So it's so easy to pipe. So much easier than whipped cream. Okay, I'm gonna keep doing this, and I'm gonna go get my torch, and I'll see you back here. Don't go too far away. Stay tuned to SoFlo Taste. We'll be right back. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste and our old Florida cuisine and recipes. So here is our meringue. Let's go ahead and torch it. And there we have it. So here is Caro Hare's pie. I am very proud of it, and I thank her family for publishing it. It's really wonderful. Well, today's recipes are as good today as they were when they were first made back in the day. I hope you try them, and remember, when you do, you're continuing the great Florida food traditions. Now join me next time as I take you out in my backyard for a good old 4th of July cookout. It's a red, white, and blue show just next week here on SoFlo Taste. Time to check in with Elena Capra, host of SoFlo Home Project. Good morning, Elena. What's on your menu this morning?
Hi, Michelle. Good morning. So today we look at a home that pays homage to neoclassical French style. Coming up on SoFlo Home Project, we learn what it takes to design a luxurious 18th century home in today's era.
Okay, Elena, we will be watching So Taste Buds again. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye, mwah, and very good taste.